Okay, it's gonna do analysis here of the Euro USD. We're gonna start here on the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, we can see that we have an overall descending channel. We have the nice 1, 2, 3 touch of the bottom, right? And a nice 1, 2 touch of the top. Ultimately, we're going to be looking to move higher to either get another touch of this top or ultimately break higher and then complete this pattern for the 90% rule all the way up here, making this the ultimate target. Also within the weekly descending channel, as we can see on the weekly, but we're just going to go down to the daily anyway. You can see on the weekly that we also have another descending channel within the weekly descending channel. Again, same bottom and then different top this time. So we have 1, 2 top, looking for a third touch here, but we don't have to get that third touch. We don't have to get any touch up here on the weekly channel or a break above the weekly channel. Nothing has to happen. Price can do whatever it wants to do. Also in the daily time frame is where the first place we can see within this descending channel at the end of it, after we got this move off of the third touch of the bottom of the descending channel, we have now forming what seems to be a daily ascending channel, which will also be more visible and a bit like clearer on the 4-hour. But right now we can just see 1, 2 touch at the top, 1, 2 touch at the bottom, and right now we're at the double top of this daily ascending channel. With going down to the 4-hour now, we're going to see the channel just a little bit clearer. I'm going to get these circles off just so it's easier to see. I'm just going to fix this up a bit. Just neaten that up a bit right there. Make sure it's on the most recent significant touches. 1, 2, and again, looking for a third touch. Neaten up like this to make it more parallel to this, to the bottom trend line. And so on the 4-hour again, we can again see that we're getting this overall double top. And we can see that we got there impulsively from a larger expanding, right? So if we just want to take this away for a second, just so we could see this, we had this larger expanding formation here, right? And the nature of expandings are often after you get the third touch of the top for them to break down lower and ultimately either continue lower. And that's why, it's a big part about this is we could come back lower, back to this area where we got the third touch of the weekly descending channel. We just go back out to the daily just to see the weekly channel a little bit better. We could come back down and get a double bottom here within the weekly channel, or we could get another touch of the weekly descending channel bottom to ultimately push higher again. But we don't have to, because the higher time frame momentum is pointing to the upside. So because of that, we don't have to get that touch lower. We don't have to push lower and get the double bottom at all. But we are getting this 4-hour and daily ascending channel within the weekly descending channel, right? And so also, if we look a little bit cleaner here, you can also see this new channel forming, right? And we just got 1, 2, 3 touch of that channel, which also comes in line again with the daily double top. And ultimately you see move up, middle section like here, move up to complete the pattern. And we're just gonna, although we did get there impulsively, we're gonna go back down all the way to the 1 hour And within the 1 hour, we can see that the 80% rule is in our favor, that being 80% of this move was corrective. Although we got there impulsively, if you really look at it, it's correction in here, impulse, correction, 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 impulse, correction, impulse, right? So we have 3 solid impulses. Well, I guess you can count this impulse as well. I missed this one. 4 solid impulses, but mostly corrections within the channel. And so if we just neaten this up right now to this wick and just make this a little bit more parallel, again, just weighing this in a little bit because it's kind of all over the place. We can see that we not only got the third touch of this channel on the 4 hour and 1 hour, we also got a break above the double top and then a break back below, right? And it appears that we are forming our first tight correction after this break below. And so if we just go down to the 15-minute, just to filter this a little bit, not to look for the trade, but to filter it a little bit, just to make sure that we have our angle right, right? We can see that we have 1, 2, we're basically getting this bottom now. That's kind of just perfectionism, although it's not exactly at the wick. That'd be really perfectionism if I were to say this wasn't a second touch of the bottom, but it could just, trickle down a little bit more and then go higher, as we're seeing that this is kind of corrective, right? So this could be down, impulse up, correction, up again for a double top here of this pattern to go lower to complete this smaller 1 hour correction, first tight correction after this break above and break back down below impulsively of the overall double top and the third touch of the 4 hour, 1 hour channel. We could also, if we go back out to the 1 hour, sorry, could also get, this doesn't have to go right now. It doesn't have to do anything. Price can do whatever it wants, and that's perfectly okay. We could also get, this could ultimately go higher to complete this and then break back lower, right? And at that point, what we're going to be looking for is the first correction here to ultimately move lower again. All right. Just a little bit. Or ultimately, this wants to move out of this break back lower a bit more correctively. If it wants to move out of here correctively, we could be looking at more of a scooping double top ultimately to fill this wick, fill this liquidity, and then a break back lower. And then at this point, we're going to be looking for this first tight correction if price wants to give it to us, right? To ultimately take it lower again. Stop. 25 stop is more than enough, all right? Just above these highs, just to let me know that if price wants to actually form more of this type of pattern, more of a flag type pattern, to ultimately continue to move higher in line with the higher time for momentum. Because again, remember that although we are getting a daily and 4 hour ascending channel and a 4 hour, 1 hour ascending channel, ultimately the higher time for momentum is pointing to the upside because we're on in a weekly and daily descending channel, right? And so ultimately price, if higher time for momentum wants to take over and go higher, we could see price form more of this type of flag, all right? Or it's also a possibility price could just retrace higher, fill this liquidity, all right? Nice first tight correction here, and then we get another move higher ultimately. At that point, it's really just up to price and the market showing its hand, right? You could also, from here, just correct higher. All right, more of an ascending channel again, just to fill this liquidity. Maybe a spike above, spike back below. Another first tight correction. This is where we look to enter. All right, that's another possibility that we have. And then ultimately, again, with this wick here and this break above, again, if I just, yeah, here it is. Just zoom out just so I can get the easiest way to see this double top, right? Ultimately, with this double top and this liquidity and the way that price broke back down, the fact that price didn't form its correction before the ascending channel. So if we just take this back just a little bit, we just take it back before this big candle right here. If we ultimately just take this back a little bit, what I'm trying to say is, I say price wanted to still move up the way that it did. It would have been better for price to form its tight correction that it's forming now before the ascending channel. And for that to, that would be a much more high probability setup for it to continue higher in line with the higher time frame momentum, right? And so, ultimately, again, the higher time frame momentum is pointing to the upside. So I'm not saying that it can't go to the upside. What I'm saying is the fact that it did break above and impulsively and then break back down impulsively and then start to form its correction below. I ultimately want to see this becomes above this wick and this liquidity becomes a line in the sand for me. I want to see price come up above this and start to form its correction. If it wants to form it here, it doesn't have to form it here, or it can even form it like up here. Doesn't matter. Basically, I just want to see price break above this liquidity area to continue higher. And you may say like, oh, like, you're going to miss a lot of the move. But again, if we go back to it, that's not even most of the move, right? If we really look at it, we haven't even gotten out of the daily descending channel. So most of the move hasn't even started yet. Because remember, the ultimate goal is, first off, this 90% rule, right? So let's say that we get it on the break of this daily descending channel. That's it. Just tighten this up. All right. Although this is the weekly and it's like, huge. As you can see, literally just here, that's about 400 pips, right? And so like for me to wait for it to break above the liquidity and break above that point in the market, that line in the sand in the market, I'm not missing anything. I'm not missing the move. The move's not going without me. There's still a lot of the move to be made, a lot of pips to be made in that move, right? And so with that, that's why I want to have this line in the sand as the liquidity area, because again, even if we get this move higher like this ascendingly, that doesn't mean it can't continue higher, because we can get this and then a correction back lower, ultimately to form more of this type of pattern again, to move higher again. At this point, I'd be looking for the first tight correction. If it wants to come within the flag, that'd be cool too. That's fine by me. At this point, it would be more defined that this is probably, what the higher time frame was trying to do. It would be more clear that the higher time frame is probably trying to go higher, right? And I say probably because, again, anything is possible within the market at any time. The market doesn't have to do whatever you think it has to do. The market can do whatever it wants to do, because the market is only a conglomerate of all the traders that are in the market at that time, right? And so because of that, we don't know what the market can do at any time. We can only have an edge, which are repeatable patterns, and try to play that edge. And if it works out, it works out. If not, it doesn't work out. And that's perfectly fine. Like a casino, the key is to just have your edge, make sure you have the right risk reward ratio, and to play that edge. That's something that I definitely need to work on myself in my trading psychology. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this not because I think I'm some guru, but I'm doing this literally so I can, one, talk out my analysis to myself. So when the opportunity presents itself, it's more ingrained into my mind, and it's easier for me to, take advantage of those opportunities, because I've already forecasted those opportunities. And two, again, just proving to myself and showing myself that the market doesn't have to do what I think it needs to do, and that it's perfectly okay to be wrong, because there really is no wrong in the market, right? It's really just what happened. And so, ultimately, again, this is the line in the sand. But if price wants to break down lower and form a tight correction, then I'm interested. in the sells. Ultimately, to go back lower to here, and then ultimately the 90% rule of this pattern, and possibly even lower to this pattern here, right? Because again, we have this larger 4-hour ascending channel, daily 4-hour ascending channel that we're currently a part of. And so that's a possibility again. Or again, as I was saying, we could get correction higher just to fill this liquidity, which I think is most probable, a break lower. And it's how it breaks lower that's going to be important to me. And then a break lower again, ultimately, again, to complete the 90% rule of this pattern and then the next pattern. And that's perfectly fine. Because again, even though the high time frame momentum is pointing to the upside, it doesn't have to go right now. It doesn't have to go at any time, or it could just change. You know, we never know what's going to change in the market. The market is, the market can stay irrational for longer than you can stay liquid in the market, and that's something that I definitely just, I used to tell myself that at the beginning of my trading journey, and I definitely need to start telling myself that way more. But yeah. So ultimately, I'm just going to be at this area, in this situation. I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm sitting on my hands, and I'm going to wait for the market to show me its hand. All right. And if it just wants to kind of just correct like this sideways, ultimately, I'm going to be looking to take this higher. And again, this is a case of letting the market show its hand. This isn't an area where I want to be trying to take a risk entry, not because it's not a valid area to take a risk entry. Oh, sorry, let me get this away. Not because it's not a valid area to take a risk entry, because, again, we have this overall double top, and we got there ascendingly, in this ascending pattern. But again, this is an area where we want to see the market show its hand, just because the higher time for momentum is pointing to the upside, and we just got this big move to the upside, right? We got impulse, correction, impulse. And although that doesn't make this not a correction, again, the higher time for momentum can go at any point. It can go when it wants. So at this point right now, I'm looking for the market to show its hand, to ultimately either break back lower in this expanding, or to, again, form more of a flag correction to go higher. Either a tight, just a sideways flag correction, or maybe a more defined 2-touch, 3-touch, or double bottom after the second touch, or possibly just double bottom here. Ascending, descending, double bottom right here to move higher. So this is an area where I want to see the market show its hand. I'm going to be trying to be patient with the market. Ultimately, again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and that's perfectly fine, because I don't really see it as being wrong. I just see it as being, the market did its thing, because you're never really right or wrong. You just take advantage of the opportunities that are in the market. And I think that's something that I need to start telling myself when I start being more okay with, just being more okay with saying, okay, I may not be right. My analysis or forecasting may not be right, but I need to be open to all the opportunities that are present in the market. And at this point in time, there are both buy and sell opportunities that could present themselves. And so in this case, I want to see the market show its hand and present itself to me. So that's my analysis on EURUSD. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope it provided some value. If you think I suck, that's perfectly fine by me. I don't really care, because trading is, if you think I suck, or I'm stupid, or I'm just doing something wrong, or you have a different analysis, that's perfectly fine. Like, you could tell me, I don't really care. That's perfectly fine by me, just because I'm trying to get better about not worrying about what everybody else is doing in the market, but worrying about what I'm doing, right? Following my plan is sticking to my plan. And my plan in areas like this, I just want to see the market show its hand, because we are not although this is a good area to take a trade from, it's definitely a valid area. We aren't at the, top, and we aren't at an overall top or bottom or a third touch of an overall structure, right? Like a weekly or daily structure. We do have this double bottom here, and we do have this daily ascending channel that we're looking at right now, and we have a double bottom within it. So, I mean, a double top within it. So that is a good possibility. But again, the higher time for momentum is pointing to the upside. So again, in cases like this, waiting for the market to show its hand, especially with the fact that, again, we broke above this double top. And again, I'm just going to go down to 15 just as a filter, not to look for a trade, but just as a filter, because if we look at the 1 hour here a little bit clearer, right? If we look at the 1 hour here a little bit clearer, we have break up, this wicks. You have to learn how to read wicks, read in between price. I think that's one thing that my old strategy was very good about teaching me, was learning how to read in between price, because my old strategy was honestly just based off wicks and what I called probes, which are basically when wicks form, which is basically what you're seeing here on the 15-minute. This is what I would classify as a probe: up, up, and then retrace back down, right? But again, the fact that we got this up, break back down, and now we're getting this defined correction with a bottom, right? 1, 2, and we're getting the bottom descendingly. So if we want to push back higher ascendingly to the top of this little 15-minute correction, ultimately 1 hour correction, again, this would be a good area to take a sell from, right? Just to complete this tight correction. And so again, that is why I'm waiting for the market to show its hand. And I won't take it here because again, it could just keep trickling up, stop me out, fill this liquidity, and then drop, or then drop, hover around here, then go. Or it could just keep trickling up, fill liquidity, trickle down, get a nice double bottom within the pattern, and ultimately move higher, again, in line with the higher time frame momentum. This is my analysis on the Euro USD. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you have any constructive criticism, I'm always open to that. Other than that, hope you enjoyed it. Hope it provided some value to somebody out there. That's kind of my goal here, to not only just, put myself out there and be better about like talking through my analysis and everything like that, but also, in any way, shape, or form, there's always somebody below you in something. I'm not saying below me and saying that like I'm better than anybody else, but I've been learning how to trade for about a year, coming on 2 years now, and actually live in the markets for almost 10 months. So there's somebody who just started. And so if I could provide any value to somebody out there like that who's feeling a little bit lost, I definitely want to do that as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, any constructive criticism, I'm definitely open to it. And yeah, thank you.